So my batchmates also used to feel that joining police is a wrong decision on the part of, on my part. Audits is a job which is more suited for a woman. But my thought used to be, how can anyone tell me that I do not belong to police when I have qualified in this exam? So all of us must have this inner strength in our belief. I felt, okay, I made a wrong choice by taking audits in my first chance. I have again qualified, gone through this tough written test, interview, and I have made it. So I have a right, maybe entitlement is the wrong word, but I felt I belong here. One, that feeling helped me. Second, I found the training very tough. But I also had that resilience which you have when you are young. You know what the boys in my batch used to do? Just imagine, it's a huge dining hall and you're sitting all alone and having your dinner at night. Lunch is a very hurried affair in police academy, which has morning yoga, then PT parade, then arms drill. Then you would have either rock climbing or horse riding or swimming or games. It's a very tough routine. And totally exhausted, you're having dinner at night. And some of my batchmates would, in the officers' mess, play a record. Remember, my name is Meera. N is silent, or it's half nasal sound. They would play the then very popular song, Pag Ghunguru Bandh Meera Nachi. I wish I had created Chogli at that time to bash all of them. But I went and reported, and to the full credit of my deputy director, he said, oh, that song bothers you. The first deputy director I approached, he said, you have joined police. These things are going to happen. People are going to tease you, trouble you, harass you. You have to take it in your stride. The second deputy, I felt this is not the way. I approached the other deputy director. He said that record will not be in the police officer's mess tomorrow morning. And where that, those days we used to have those HMV records, yes sir, that disappeared. So you have to, you can have daily fights. Don't feel discouraged. These encounters only strengthen you. So like, I felt more strong after the faculty took my side. But a very important lesson for all of us, especially for girls, do not remain silent. If you have an issue, a man may not appreciate that it's an issue, but if you feel it's an issue, speak out and seek justice. In this particular case, after this record was removed from the IPS officer's mess, I could enjoy my dinner.
Any other questions? Yes. Mr. Decca, yes. Oh, sorry, is another one there?
No, the mic is there.
Thank you, ma'am. I teach political science here. My name is Kaustubh Decca. Wonderful hearing you, especially thank you for your timely reminder about this issue of extrajudicial encounter killings, etc. It's very important. But listening to you, I could not help remembering, I had this good fortune of once, many years ago, interviewing the legendary Julio Ribeiro, the police commissioner of Mumbai, who handled this very difficult situation of Bombay blast and riots. It was a kind of a project I was doing that time. So I remember what he said and stayed with me. He basically mentioned that how in his time also it was already the trend and how there was increasing politicization of police. And that was a very tough task for him, how to balance it between this increasing interference in policing in Mumbai and Maharashtra, and how, especially in situation of this type of riots and conflicts, how police had to maintain the integrity. And it was very difficult, and he said that that is what matters for the morale of the force also. If the highest officers are they maintain their independence and integrity in some way. So that is something I think since then, I mean, your experience could be perhaps very interesting to know. Since then, perhaps in a state like Maharashtra, this must have become more challenging and more difficult. And also increasingly we see this whole center-state kind of tussle when it comes to policing. Right? I mean, it becomes a matter of some kind of a debate and some kind of a fight for their own domain between center and state, and we see a lot of these transfers and other issues. These are complex issues, I know, but since you have seen it up close and maybe you have your own insights to share. That is one, and the second one is very light, on a lighter vein. We see a lot of Bollywood movies and all made on police these days, and they show that even the top female officers are called as Madam Sir. They still call it Madam Sir. So that shows that very masculine bias that still somehow exists. Your book is very rightly say Madam Commissioner, but I would like to know whether you have also experienced this Madam Sir kind of phenomenon. Thank you.
Thank you. So second question first. So Madam Sir, you can say it's a gender issue, but also understand the discomfort of policemen who had never seen women officers. I had an instance where when I was under training at a police station called Bhadrakali in Nasik, the staff would sit with me, and my Marathi was poor. They will teach me Marathi, they will teach me all the documentation work. But evening when the police station staff had to go for those raids against liquor, illicit liquor, gambling or prostitution, they were very unwilling to take me. One was they were not comfortable with the lady officer. So it was a genuine discomfort which was making them call us, many women officers, Madam Sir. And second, that patriarchy, because I was told actually one reason why they didn't take me, they were not comfortable taking me for raids, evening raids, was that Bhadrakali had Asaram Shinde as the inspector, who was 6 feet tall and what a personality. But because I am from IPS, if a raiding party goes, I sit in the front with the driver and Shinde will have to sit in the back. That was not acceptable to them. So besides gender, it's also an issue of discomfort, and slowly I must say all over India policemen have started accepting leadership of women in police. What has been a very pleasant surprise to me is that citizens always accepted women police officers much earlier, and they were very swift and very happy to have women as leaders than our police staff. As for politicians at state and center interfering about police, the sad reality is from SHO holding the police station as in charge up to the DG, sir, they are all selected by politicians, and therefore it's my man, my lady who will be heading the zone, the range, the state. But this is democracy. So politicians have the final say. Therefore, we have to be very careful in selecting our politicians. We should select those representatives who would value the merit in an officer and not Ji Hazuri. In India, what is happening today is we have political leadership which is feudal, which wants an officer who says, "Baitho, baith ja, khade ho ja," who agrees instead of conversing about what is the correct police methodology. So today we have more feudal culture and appointments and transfer based on individual liking of police officers by the politicians, instead of politicians valuing and posting officers on the basis of merit. Supreme Court has given 7 police reforms as per Prakash Singh sir's directive. In that, one very important reform is that all postings would be on the basis of merit decided upon by an establishment board. but states are finding some ways, some loopholes, and still instead of merit, it is the my man and my person who is getting the crucial postings. So we all have to be very careful in electing our public representatives. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I am Ayan Das from Department of Political Science, a 4th semester student. Would like to know that we are seeing that the rising increase of individuals with criminal backgrounds in politics raises serious concerns about our democratic institutions and also public trust. Ma'am, how do you? I want to know from you, how do you think this has impacted our democratic institutions, and also what are the measures that we can take so that politics does not become a safe haven for the criminals?
Yeah, that's what we just discussed, that we have to be very careful. I think nearly 50% of our members have criminal record of one kind or the other. When I became Commissioner of Police Pune, I was very happy because this is the first time they made a lady police commissioner. But what was my son's reaction? The member parliament had a criminal record in Pune. And he said, "Mama, you will have to salute him." He was most distressed. So this is also a bitter reality in India, that as honest state police officers or bureaucrats also, we have to not only salute but also obey the orders given by public representatives with criminal records.
That's the democracy, as you just said. That's the democracy.
But message for all of us is, sir, Election Commission has done its duty by saying that all candidates have to declare their criminal record. So while casting a very valuable vote, I have cast mine. So we have to be very careful and not vote for people with criminal records. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How many of you would like to join police? Raise hands, please.
I'm retired, but I'd love to.
But youngsters don't seem interested, sir.
We'll ask them this question, we'll ask them why.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. I am Tinasri Bora from Women's College Tinsukia, BA 4th semester, Political Science Department. Ma'am, I want to ask you a question. So what definition of success would you like to say by reminiscing your journey from a child or a girl from a very small school or a low infrastructure school and to become an IPS officer? So what definition of success would you like to share with us? Thank you.
Thank you. So when I talk to youth, my first point is this, that you have to define your own idea of success. And I would say that it's not only that I made it into police and I did reasonably well in career, but I also feel very happy having my boys, my family life. So it's a full circle. It's not only the career which I would consider successful, but it's family life, your personal life, and career. All put together means success to me. Not career alone. Please, that's also very strong, deep sharing which I want to have with the youth. Let's not focus only on career. Let's not focus only on family. And let's not empower anyone else to decide our success. We have to decide our own parameters of success and then stick to them. You can listen to everyone else, but as a youngster, define your success, what it means to you, and then go on that path. Thank you.
So now one final question. Any? Oh, yes. There are two. Okay, we'll take both of you. Go ahead.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. My name is Joyita Kaur, Women's College Tinsukia, student from BA 4th semester, Political Science Department.
Ma'am, rape is one of the serious crime. So why justice dispensation is so slow in India? Is this the sole responsible of our political system or the society who made it generalized?
Rape, she said, no, sir?
It's given heinous crime level. You
Yeah.
explained it earlier.
So, that is what bothers me a lot. That the conviction rate of rape is 27.4% as per the latest data. So, just imagine about more than 73 accused criminals out of 100 will get acquitted.
And this is only those cases charge sheeted. So, I mean,
Yes.
it's much more.
So that's why I feel, serious cases are also investigated seriously by police. Sometimes they may flounder, but generally cases of grievous nature are investigated properly, supervised properly, and as far as charge sheeting rate by police is concerned, by sending them to the court, that is also very high, above 80%. The wheel gets stuck when the trial is late. So when the trial is late, what the accused do? I will tell you, I supervised investigation of a big scandal called Jalgaon sex scandal. And though the trial came within a year because the government formed a special court, the accused bought the witnesses, they even tampered with the victims. So if you delay trial, in this case, out of 12 rape cases, we could get conviction only in 6. Because the accused are highly motivated to somehow purchase, buy witnesses, and in this case even threaten them. And if the trial is late, another golden opportunity for the accused to meddle with trials and to get the cases acquitted. The only way out is 1 year, within a year the trial should start, complete. By another, say, some people are telling me that you are giving a long rope by even saying 18 months, within 18 months trial should be complete, but let's be realistic, and next 6 months for appeals. Main reason for grievous cases getting acquitted, I feel, is delay in trial.
Okay, last question. There was a lady, young girl there.
Hello ma'am, hello sir. My name is Momita Bachar from Women's College Tinsukia, BA 6th semester of Community Science Department. Ma'am, my question is, as a student, along with our studies, how to handle and how to deal with mental pressure, family pressure and societal pressure.
Thank you. This also question I am asked quite often by youth. So first is, you think, we haven't gone through it, I have gone through it, sir has gone through it. When you are preparing for civil services or when you are preparing for career anywhere, accept that you are going to have self-doubts. So all our journeys, they are not perfect journeys. We are going to have self-doubts, we are going to get even sometimes very misplaced advices. But like I shared with you earlier, you have to define your career, your success, your path, and then ignore everything else. Also accept feeling low when you are preparing for any civil services, feeling low, having self-doubts, sometimes more than even low, you may even feel depressed. But always look for solutions, find a way out. Don't get stuck in the issue, in the problem. Our attitude should be to solve the problem. I come across so many police officers also. They will only talk of the issue, of the problem. Okay, once you have defined this is the issue, I am going through a low phase, I am feeling depressed, I am having lots of self-doubt. Next is how to come out of it. So that should be your policy. And to that young girl, thank you, about the acquittal, I also feel in grievous cases, one reason why cases are getting acquitted, because witnesses don't depose in the court. I had a case where a young girl was murdered one-sided love affair. And 3 witnesses, young witnesses, deposed in the court despite getting threats from the family of the accused, despite getting trying to get them trapped by the defense counsel. Those 3 young witnesses stood their ground and they got the accused convicted. So it's our duty also as citizens. We say bystanders intervention. Sometimes, recently it happened in Pune, a girl was murdered and people just kept watching and there are videos all over. So while we point at the government not investing in courts, in police, what are we doing as witnesses, as civilians, as citizens? So bystanders intervention to the extent of deposing in the court, if the court sends you a summons, is also very essential for getting accused criminals, gangsters convicted. Thank you.
Yesterday I had attended a session on the Assamese novel, and I was so envious because of the strong interaction between the panel and the audience. But today you have outdone them. So let me give you thank you all for this novel. One last question. Go ahead. My sister-in-law, I can't say no. I'm sorry.
Mike is there. When Mike suggests.
Good morning to all. And ma'am, I'm very much, I don't know how to thank you for coming here. We are so impressed by your speech and whatever you have done as a police lady with a difference. So my question is, ma'am, how can we solve the rising rates of crime in our country? Because this is a developing country and developing countries face a lot of crimes, problems. So I think there is a saying, when we open a school door, we close a prison door, by Victor Hugo, I suppose. So can we build up a policeman in ourselves, in our small children, that they can be guiding the society as to not to commit crimes? Because our schools nowadays, I'm a retired principal of a government school, and we had to run a program on police cadet, girls police cadet corps. So that was the theme of the government program. Our children were taught on all the policing things which we need to know to lead a civil life properly. So can we do something about raising our kids in a very
Conscious way to prevent crime?
Yes, sir.
Sure, ma'am. This is one of my favorite topics, sir. Last night I was writing for Rajasthan Patrika. I have mentioned this. Elementary school up to college. We need to give this input and develop children, students as police persons without uniform. And we have to involve community. I like to give one example. When I was SP Satara, we started having dacoity every night, literally every night, because there is a highway which passes from Mumbai to Belgaum, up to Bengaluru via Satara, and the dacoits would attack luxury buses and loot the women wearing jewelry at night. Despite my best efforts, we could not catch these criminals. Then I thought, let me involve community. It's not only students, we have to involve men, women. So I involved community. I asked my police stations that you have to have villagers on both sides of the highway with you for night patrolling. And guess who caught these criminals who were coming, sir, every day, every night from Malda district?
From Bengal?
In Bengal. So Sir, they would take Gitanjali Express from Kolkata, come to Mumbai, get down at Dadar, take these luxury buses, loot, and then come back to Dadar by taking lifts in trucks, and come back to Malda, Kolkata via Gitanjali Express. But it was only the young, lean boys from the local villages who once chased them and caught them. And my policemen, despite trying for 2-3 months, they were not able to catch them. So, children, youth, students must be involved, and they must be encouraged to be police persons without uniform. Police alone, with a ratio of 150, 160 per lakh of a population, we just cannot do this patrolling, investigate the crime, VIP bandobas, security bandobas, festival bandobas. We are so overloaded that till you join us, we are incomplete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been an absolutely fascinating session. I thank all of you. I thank the University, and I thank you, for coming all the way. She came from Bhopal Festival. I don't know where she's going next. She's become a festival hopper. Over, back to you, Professor Zoraika.
So with this, we have come to the end of our session. So first and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed dignitaries seated over the dais, and a big thank you for sharing your experience and providing us with your valuable perspectives. And I would also like to thank our wonderful audience for your keen interest and presence over the session. It has added an immense value to it. At the same time, I'd also like to appreciate the efforts of our students, volunteers, rapporteurs, and the whole team who is working behind the scene for a smooth execution of this session. And at last, as we conclude this session today, let us take the knowledge and perspectives that we have gained today. And I hope this session inspires deeper discussions and reflections in the near future. Once again, thank you so very much for attending this session. I wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you. At the same time, kind attention to the students to be please kindly seated for our next session. Thank you.
Literature Festival 2025, where word we words. We have an exciting conversation ahead with us, some truly inspiring speakers who are ready to share their insight with us on the particular title, Shyam Benegal, a tribute. May I now allow to introduce to you one of our prominent speaker of this session, respected Jahnu Borua sir. One of India's internationally acclaimed filmmakers, Jahnu Borua sir was born on 18 October 1952 in Assam. He graduated in science from Guwahati University and did his post-graduation diploma in film direction from Film and TV Institute of India, Pune. A 12-time National Award winner, he has been making film in Assamese and Hindi. With more than 30 international awards in various film festivals worldwide, Sir's films are regarded socially relevant and critically acclaimed nationally as well as internationally with innumerable recognitions. He has been conferred Padma Shri in 2003 and Padma Bhushan in 2015 by the President of India. Other major honors include Kamal Kumari National Award for Culture, Torun Dwara All India Award, Bhavendranath Saikia Award, Best Assamese Award, Bhupen Hazarika Award, Bhupen Hazarika Kothachavi Ratna, Hindi Sevi Purashkar, Doctor of Literature, etc. Heartiest welcome to you, sir. May I now allow to introduce to you another prominent speaker of this session, respected Sir Arjun Sengupta. Sir is a teacher and an author. He teaches English literature at St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, with previous stint at Scottish Church College and Presidency College. He has co-authored Victorian literature and modern Indian literature. He also co-wrote the authoritative biography of actor and thespian Sumita Chatterjee, titled Soumitra Chatterjee, A Life in Cinema, Theatre, Poetry and Painting. Shyam Benegal, filmmaker of the Real India, is a monograph written by Sir. Heartiest welcome to you, sir. I am honored to introduce to you another speaker of this session, respected Sir Vivek Menezes. Sir is a festival curator, writer, columnist and photographer. He is the founding editor of the Peacock Daily newspaper at International Film Festival of India. An alumni of London School of Economics, Sir is a regular contributor to leading periodicals in India and abroad. Sir is the co-founder and co-creator of Goa Arts and Literature Festival. Heartiest welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Welcome to this session. Thank you all for being here. I must say, this is the last, my last session, the third on the last day of the second Dibrugarh University International Literature Festival, and I was here last year as well. I want to really congratulate all of you for this wonderful experience I've had this year again. I run a festival as well. I know the challenges. This is really one of the finest events of its type I've been to anywhere, not just in India. And it is a multiple privilege to be here in Dibrugarh again. I think it's a very suitable place to have these kinds of conversations. The audiences have been remarkable, and all of our experiences have been great. And so it's a multiple privilege to be here with Jahnu Borua, because not only is he an icon of Assam and icon of our contemporary cultural sphere all over India, but he's also one of the founders and moving forces of this literature festival. So it's really a privilege. Another big hand, please, for the organizers. So today, one of the things I love about this festival is remarkable sense of inclusion. And so today I am someone from the Konkan coastline, very far away from here, actually Vietnam. I keep saying Vietnam and Cambodia are closer to you than the Konkan is. Konkan is further. But we're talking about another son of the Konkan really, whose name is Shyam Benegal. And very happy to have here the author of this fine monograph and new book in a series of like the important people who made modern India, and Arjun Sengupta is here. So congratulations Arjun on this book. So Shyam Benegal, I'd like to get a quick sense first of all is, how many people here have seen a Shyam Benegal movie? So an extreme interesting. So an extreme minority, that's good, and it's worthwhile to inform ourselves. So Shyam Benegal passed away a short while ago, or just a few months ago. And besides he's an interesting enough person that a person who was born in the 80s, like Arjun has written this book about him. And we're going to hear a lot. We are particularly privileged. Another reason we are privileged to have Janu with us here today, because he knew Shyam Benegal and he was there in the crucial period in the 70s that made him. So, but what I'd like to do is tell you why, in a way, Shyam Benegal is important. And if you don't mind, Arjun, I'm going to read from your preface. So Shyam Benegal is a pioneer in more ways than one. In the 1970s, he opened up a space for serious cinema in a way that hadn't really existed before him. He is responsible for discovering and nurturing some of the finest actors in our country, many of whom acknowledge that their best work happened under his tutelage. He made films whose subjects were taken from all over the country and explored issues that mainstream cinema wouldn't touch. He used the popularity of the medium to raise awareness of injustice, inequality, and oppression. In his choice of settings and themes that span the whole of the country, he is in many ways the first director who can justly claim that his one true subject has been India, its present, its past, and its possible future. Skipping forward, Arjun writes, he has through his films insisted that India is not a monolithic idea, but a conglomeration of baffling multiplicities that coexist in complicated, symbiotic, and sometimes conflicting ways. Now, whenever I'm in a place like Dibrugarh, I mean, this is a second time in Dibrugarh, Assam, the truth of that, the conflicting, sometimes symbiotic, complicated ways of belonging to the country are always apparent. So I think we talk about a little bit about that as well. But Arjun, why did you write this book? Why is Shyam Benegal important? Why would you like this audience of where only 3 people know him? Why would you like them to know about him?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to Dibrugarh for this lovely literary fest. It's been a joy to be here, and it's a joy to be here now, especially sitting beside Janu Bora sir. I would like to start by saying, actually I'm used to talking to rooms that are bigger than this with more people, so it feels odd to have a mic. Can I speak without it?
Yes, sir. Am I audible? Yes, yeah. So I'm more used to this because this is how I talk in the classroom, and this always makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Right. So the reason why I wrote this book is because of something that used to happen in my childhood quite a bit. Now, many of you here who are used to, the young ones that is, who are used to having so much choice when it comes to what to watch, whether on TV or on your mobile devices. You see, when we were kids in the 80s, we had no choice. We had Doordarshan. That's it. We had Doordarshan and nothing more. And I think we have a young fan. I think you should use the mic actually. Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, there will be some problem in streaming if you don't use them.
Oh, okay.
Back to this then. Right. Okay. So the reason why I chose to write on Shyam Benegal is because of my childhood. As I was saying that when we were kids, we didn't have a choice. You know, there was Doordarshan. And Doordarshan used to show Shyam Benegal films in the late 80s and the early 90s. And as children, we just plonked ourselves in front of the television and we used to watch whatever was on. Not because they were meant for children. I'm not entirely sure why my parents let me watch Shyam Benegal films when I was 7 or 8 years old. But there I was on afternoons watching films like Trikal, and I couldn't understand a word of it. But what affected me as a child and what has remained as a memory is a sense of claustrophobia on screen. I got a sense of claustrophobia, and I didn't know what claustrophobia meant at that time either. I just put a word to it now. And I realized that this is a film that's trying to say something. And that's something true for Shyam Benegal films. They always have something to say. And so it was very nostalgic in a way for me to go back to his films, and also very meaningful because I got to meet him, and he was a very gracious man. He didn't have to be, as far as I was concerned. I got his phone number from my publisher, who said that maybe you could add an interview to the end of the book. And I called him out of nowhere, and he picked up, and I told him, "Sir, this is what I'm doing." So he gave me an hour of his time. Again, he didn't have to. Answering my questions, he didn't know me. So I pushed my luck. So I said, "Can I come and meet you in Bombay?" He said, "Well, if you're coming to Bombay." I said, "No, I'll come to Bombay if you say that you're going to give me time." I said, "That's not good enough." He told me, "That's not a good enough reason to come to Bombay, to come and talk to me." I said, "Well, no, it is. For me, it is." He was a very humble person. And then for 2 days, he talked to me. And I asked him questions, and he would pause, reflect, and give me not off-the-cuff, superficial answers. And out of this conversation was born the idea of what makes him a pioneer. And that's really the point of the book. What makes him a pioneer? So it's not really a critical, it's not a biography in the strictest sense of the term, because there is very little of his life here that I've spoken about. And he's not particularly forthcoming about it either. The book is about what makes him a pioneer in the cinematic sphere, in post-independent India.
So we're definitely going to come to the real life experiences of Benegal, but Arjun has done a wonderful job. He says he has not talked about Benegal's life too much, but actually in a few short pages, he gives you a very strong précis of where Benegal comes from. It's quite a unique place. The Konkan, the west coast of India, its kind of foment of with modernity, with the modern world, has been taking place for over 100 years. Again, I'd like to, at this point, think about what's happening in Dibrugarh in the 40s, what's happening in Assam in the 40s. So in a way, Benegal's growing up in a world which is quite different from that and connected to a whole bunch of movements. So though it will take a few minutes, I would like to ask Arjun to please read the section that takes you through this nationalist family so you understand where Benegal is when he starts to make his debut in the film world, which is when Janu comes in. So would you mind, please? Arjun, we had set aside, it starts on, I think, page 25 with his father. So please pay attention to this. It's going to be, Arjun's going to read for a little while, but you'll understand this very interesting milieu into which Benegal enters the film world.
So before I start, I'd like to just give you a little bit of a context. The reason why I'm giving you this context is because you'll get to know two things about him through this. One is that he believed cinema to be an immersive experience, and that comes from his childhood. And secondly, why he could not avoid being a political filmmaker. These are the two things that we get really from these formative years in his life. His father, Sridhar Benegal, was a professional photographer and liberal and forward in his outlook. He concentrated more on educating his daughters than he did his sons. Sridhar was a thorough Gandhian and had been a firebrand in his youth. He was part of the Home Rule movement in the early 1920s, and even had to flee Delhi after he slapped a police officer and had a warrant issued in his name. He was fiercely idealistic, and even though he had several artistic inclinations other than photography, he wasn't particularly happy about his son's determined decision to be a filmmaker. He didn't much like films that lacked a definite and serious moral and ethical message. Young Shyam remembers that his father screened the home films he made for his family after dinner. They were like mini documentaries on all kinds of subjects, festivals, fairs, and of course army parades. He has very fond memories of these screenings. It brought the family together, and they used to have a lot of fun. Sridhar had a studio in the cantonment, but films were passing entertainment. He did, however, make exceptions for films made by Prabhat Studios and New Theatres. Prabhat Studios was launched in 1929 and quickly gained a reputation for making films with good production values, skilled actors, and most importantly, for tackling serious subjects of immediate social relevance. Between 1937 and 1941, V. Shantaram made the Marathi-Hindi bilinguals Duniya Na Mane, Aadmi, and Parosi. These films were about a female protagonist who is tricked into marrying a much older man, the love between a policeman and a prostitute, and about the desperate need for communal harmony. New Theatres was based in Calcutta and established its reputation with films like Chandidas and P.C. Borua's massively successful Devdas. Shyam grew up watching socially responsible cinema. When he became a director, he drew upon this tradition from his formative years. Sridhar took his children to watch films he believed were beneficial to them twice a week. As it turned out, this wasn't nearly enough to satisfy young Shyam's voracious appetite for the moving image. They weren't particularly well off, and there was no way he could have afforded to watch as many films as he did, if not for an unexpected friendship. He and his brother became good friends with the projectionist of Garrison Cinema. All they needed to do was sneak in after the film began, and they could see it through the projectionist's window. Sometimes they would surreptitiously slip a wedge through an unused door to keep it open a crack and watch whatever was on at the time. It wasn't comfortable, but no one disturbed them. He watched a number of British and Russian films. The latter were different from Hollywood fare, and he remembers childhood of Maxim Gorky, Battle of Stalingrad, and Fall of Berlin as intensely as any other film he saw in those years. There were other exciting advantages to knowing the projectionist. He would sometimes give them the snippets that were cut from the main film reel to take home. Young Shyam learned to scratch little figures on those bits of celluloid and then play them on the magic lantern that he had been gifted by his father. These were his fledgling attempts at telling a moving story, and like everything else in his youth related to cinema, it only left him hungry for more. What this all amounted to was that when Shyam was 12, he borrowed his father's 16mm camera and made his first film, Chuttiyon Mein Mauz Maza. It was a simple story of cousins going on a picnic where one of them gets lost. It was shot on Kodak film and had to be sent to Bombay for processing. When it returned, he got to edit the footage. He had his first taste of the process of filmmaking. Much of Shyam's education came from his family and the tumultuous times in which he grew up. He was surrounded by opinionated, politically active people, and many left their mark on him. He went to several schools. He then later went to Nizam's College under Osmania University. His uncle Dinkar was his comrade when it came to sneaking out to watch films. Venegal Dinkar Rao talked to his nephew about science and literature, slowly expanding his horizons beyond films. He was also a fascinating person, having walked all the way from Rangoon, where he lived with his family, when it fell to the Japanese in 1942, landing up at the Venegal household on the verge of death. The story of his journey was recounted again and again to young Shyam, who, like any other child his age, could not get enough of it. When he was growing up, politics was part of the air he breathed. India was on the cusp of independence from the British, and Shyam was about to witness the traumatic consequences of decolonization. Once the British left, Sridhar lost his customers. They lost their home and had to move to a smaller one. 11-year-old Shyam realized to his horror that they were suddenly quite poor. In his family, there were cousins who were part of Netaji Subhash Bose's forward bloc. One of them would even come to Hyderabad to take locally sourced weapons back to Calcutta. Dinkar's brother was sent by Netaji for pilot training to Japan, and when he was captured, he was detained by the British after the war. Shyam had gone to bring him home once he was released and got to see the disastrous consequences of being in a British prisoner of war camp. Horribly treated. He was a broken man, his body racked with disease and exhaustion. The sight of him left a lasting impression on the young Shyam. One of his brothers, working in Calcutta, was a fervent communist, while another belonged to the Hindu fundamentalist RSS. They were at the opposite ends of the political spectrum. While their father was a strict Gandhian, dinner conversations were lively to say the least. Yet there were no lasting rifts, and the bonds of family eventually triumphed over serious political disagreements. Shyam himself got embroiled in the more immediate problem of the future of Hyderabad after independence. He wanted Hyderabad to join India and took part in processions where he remembers getting beaten and tear-gassed. He witnessed the movement representing Muslim fundamentalists who wanted quite the opposite and unleashed terror at the behest of the Nizam. Surrounded by people who believed in their political convictions fervently, Shyam perhaps learned to look at things from very different points of view. In fact, as a filmmaker, he always had an almost objective and balanced perspective, in spite of constantly engaging with politically charged stories. These were the birth throes of a nation trying to shrug off old bonds of captivity. When Shyam started his career with his first film in 1974, he was in a unique position to look at what India had done with its freedom in the first decades after independence. The time in which he was born and the influences that shaped him made him a very particular kind of filmmaker. He has always had a sense of history about him. India is a country of bewildering cultural multiplicity. It also has roots that stretch very deep into ancient history. Now, it had to find a place within the context of mid-20th century modernity. Caught between the inertia of the past and the insistent demands of a modernizing future, India in these decades tried to tentatively chart a course forward in accordance with Nehru's progressive vision. Its progress needed to be probed and studied with a sympathetic but critical eye. Benegal was the right man at the right time for this job.
Wonderful. Big hand, please. Arjun has very effectively taken us from the 1930s into the 1970s, and now Benegal is making his movies. And at that same time, and he's in the film world, at the same time, Janu Barua shows up in the film world also, and his journey is very different. I was quite struck when Arjun was speaking to learn that Benegal made his first movie at the age of 12. I mean, he was looking at movies, he was literally weaned with movies, and he made his first movie at 12, sent away. I mean, it was a kind of connection to the world and privilege that brought him to that point, into Bombay in the 70s. And Janu had a very different journey from somewhere not too far away from here. If you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience how that journey, how did you get from here in Assam to the same place as Benegal, to the same rooms as Benegal in the 1970s in Bombay, please?
Actually, some of them actually must be knowing actually what I have done so far. What kind of saying that I am just about 50 kilometers away from here, my village.
How many people knew that Janu is from 50 kilometers away? 2, 3, 4.
Anyway, they know that I am from Assam. Yeah. So I am from a place actually where it was very unheard of, that going to a film institute and learning about cinema. And in that, coming back to Shyam Benegal, I must say that sometimes I feel very jealous of myself, that in my last life I must have done a lot of good deeds. That's why in this life I came across a lot of great people, and it was a God gift. And one of them is Shyam Benegal. And that's how I just want to tell you this story. Not story, actually, that when I came to first in FTII, I joined the FTII in 1971. In my second year, Shyam had come. Shyam hadn't made a film till then. He was in ad world, in advertising world. He used to make a lot of advertising films. During those days, actually, there used to be only advertising films. We never used to call them commercials, advertising films. And Shyam was very much on top in making advertising films. And he used to be associated with all the advertising agencies. And advertising films used to be only 1 minute, but he was very popular that way. But frankly speaking, I never heard of Shyam Benegal when I joined the institute. And we didn't know actually whether there would be some kind of connection with AdWorld or Shyam Benegal or with my film institute. So when I was in second year, first time I got to see him, that someone is coming with a great filmmaker, ad filmmaker. And he came with Alec Padamsi. Yeah. They used to work in, Alec was used to be in Lintas.
And English
Lintas he was.
Yes,
Yeah. So they had he had made a film on soap, and we are supposed to be learning about ad films also, ad filmmaking also. That way, first time I got him as my teacher. We came and then gave us a very beautiful lectures on ad world, and I got first opened up because of the ad world because of that. In fact, later on, I also made ad films, many ad films, more than 100 actually. Later, but all credit goes to him because how he opened us up, not only me, others also. And during that time, he had not made big films yet. The first film actually he was preparing, Ankur, that was in 1972, and he was making it that time. And who acted, because we used to know, she was still in the institute, Shavana Azmi. She was our 1 year junior to me, actually, Shavana Azmi. Same year actually, we got into institute. On the hall there, of course, was 2 years, ours is 3 years. That's how Shavana passed out 1 year before me from institute. And we came to know that Shavana is already acting in Sham's film, and we used to be very happy about it because there are two reasons actually. During that time, when we used to be in institute, first thing we used to be worried about what is our future, because we come to know that we have come to know in industry the film institute alumni, they were not welcome that way, because they used to be we used to have some kind of bad name. We are all intellectuals and all. We are not fit to be in the film industry, commercial film industry. That's why we never used to be welcome at all. We never used to, no producer used to open up their office for us like that. And we used to hear those stories. Our seniors had already suffered a lot. So because of that, during that time, Shyam Benegal had made a film, Ankur, and there's a different kind of film. It's not a usual commercial film. And so we were very happy about it, because it has brought in some of the difference into the industry, in cinema, Indian cinema. And we got excited, not really excited, and that since then onwards actually, our generation, my classmates and all, we started very closely observing him. And we are very fortunate to observe him very closely, and we got to know his growth as a filmmaker until he became famous. So film after film he did, and all we know that he struggled a lot. And one thing actually we used to feel very happy about, he had never compromised on his what kind of subjects he used to take. And all we come to know that he was not welcomed by the mainstream during that time. It's only because of the association kind of actors he had in his pocket, like Shavana, Smita Patil, Kulbhushan Kharbanda, Om Puri, Nasiruddin. So all these people actually, that they were both welcome. On this side also, that side also. That's how that some kind of relationship had developed, and that was very welcoming. And Shyam actually, he utilized that opportunity in such a way very beautifully, and got recognition not only for himself but also for all of them. That's amazing. So these are the things actually we got to observe. And later also, as I said, that I'm very fortunate and jealous of myself, because later also after institute, where I used to stay in Bombay, is a building called Ganga Vihar. I stayed, and very accidentally I got to stay there in Marine Drive. for 8 years, non-stop. And it was it's almost another God gift kind of thing. So I got to stay there. And Ganga Vihar was a place where Sham used to visit very regularly. And I got him very informally also, because a lot of discussions used to take place, a lot of get-togethers, of course, over drinks. I used to be fond of very drinks. And we used to have a lot of discussions. And in Ganga Vihar itself, that a lot of people actually, I also personally got to meet. Even the Ompuri stayed there. We were flatmate. Together, Ompuri, Shaiparanjpe, then Pulbishan Kabanda, and also there are other visitors, regular visitors. So it was very, I was very fortunate that way, got to know all these people. And Sham, whenever Sham used to come there, just now I was telling you that he used to be informal. For the first time, because I got to see him outside, I had seen him, but I always thought he's a very introvert person. Very introvert. He hardly comes out. He hardly expresses out what he feels. But in Ganga Vihar, when he used to be together, get together, he used to be informal. And a lot of feelings he used to express. That is where I think I can share something. I said to you. Maybe that what do you want me to?
No, this is amazing. Well, we'll come back to this.
Yeah, sure.
What I'd like to, we're talking about the 1970s. This is a crucial decade in which a lot of things changed. And I have to come back to Arjun here. It's in a way, it's kind of there's a kind of irony that Arjun, who was born in 1981. We're going to be focusing and dwelling on the 70s. Of course, Januda was there, but I also want to tell you a little personal connection. I was also there in a way. I was born in 1968, Januda was born in 52. And my mother and Neera Benegal, and my mother's name is Byomi Menezes, and her, Neera Benegal and Malika Sarbai were the three women running a kind of a brave little magazine called Inside Outside, which is it's gone on to be a pioneering design magazine with a lot of impact. But it is a really interesting time, a ferment of ideas, very creative people. We also lived close by. Ganga Vihar, by the way, is a classic Art Deco building on Marine Drive. We're talking about, something really iconic, this landscape in which Januda was there. I was in a stroller perhaps nearby. But let's go back to what Arjun was saying. Out of the ingredients of this mix, at a time when, even this is pre-liberalization, even rich Indians were poor in a way. You know what I mean? I mean, you're living in Marine Drive, but you didn't have a lot of access to a lot of things outside. India, there were all kinds of difficulties in connecting with the world, so you connected with each other. I mean, you have this very interesting point that out of this mix, Benegal is the one who created, he's kind of a bridge figure who created something totally new. So can you dwell on that for a minute, Arjun, and then let's go back to Januda's experience of that same time.
Before I answer the question, because we're here, I would like to point out that Assam played a very, very important role in making of Ankur, because it wasn't possible to make a film like Ankur, it wasn't possible to make a film outside Bollywood or Bombay mainstream industry, and one of the reasons why you couldn't do that is because you couldn't find distribution. So distributors wouldn't touch your film if they weren't in the commercial mold. And as an ad filmmaker, he was sometimes given the task of taking ad films through different parts of the Northeast, and he would go to Jorhat, and from Jorhat he would go all over the place here. And he used these advertising distribution networks when he made his first film. So his first film was produced by Blaze Enterprises, which was essentially used to distribute ad films. So he used the network for distributing ad films to distribute his film, which is why Ankur was seen in places where no one else would go. and that's how it got its reach and its popularity. So Assam played a pretty major role there in his first film. But to come back to what he was saying, 70s was a fascinating decade even in terms of commercial cinema. You know that the first major superstars of Indian cinema, I don't think, like post-independence at least, I don't think many of us remember it. Some of us know the names at least. The three, there was a triumvirate of major stars. There was Raj Kapoor, and there was Dilip Kumar, and there was Devanand. And their time was coming to an end, and for a brief while there was this huge craze for Rajesh Khanna. And then in the 70s, Amitabh Bachchan took over. So all of us know Amitabh Bachchan still. So Amitabh Bachchan was a one-man industry in the 70s. And in the 70s, commercial cinema became the most commercial it could be. So all the stereotypical ideas you have about Bollywood, you know, the masala films with absolute lack of logic and everything that goes with it. I mean, if anyone has ever seen a film called Amar Akbar Anthony, there's a very famous film, Amar Akbar Anthony. And at the end of Amar Akbar Anthony, the three brothers are trying to save their mother, and there is a scene in which their blood is being taken, and each of them has, their blood is being taken to the same bottle. And from that bottle, it's going to the mother. And that's like a medical catastrophe. But that was the kind of films that were being made. And absolutely nothing to do with logic at all. So when Shyam Benegal was, here's the thing, he made his first film at 12. He desperately wanted to make films, but he didn't make one until he was in his late 30s. Because he didn't want to make a film like this. And he got a chance to assist his cousin, Guru Dutt. Guru Dutt was his cousin. And this is an opportunity anyone would give a right arm for. He said, no, I'm not going to go. Because I don't want to make those films. He liked Guru Dutt films. He liked Bimal Roy films. But he's not going to make films like that. He's not going to compromise. So the person who actually showed him the light was Satyajit Ray. He saw Potter Panchali and he said that if this man can do it, I can too. So he didn't want to make films like Ray did. He just wanted, he knew that now it's possible. So all through his life, he remained very grateful to Ray for that. But more than that, you see, the thing about 70s mainstream cinema is escapist cinema, as we call it, is that the space they created because it was a Hindi film and was being seen all over India, it became like a representation of what India is. But that space is not a real space. It's a constructed space. And the people who are in these films are not real people. They are heroes and heroines and whichever other type you can think of. So Benegal didn't want to make a film out of danger, or rather he acknowledged the danger of cinema trying to project a national identity through spaces and characters that weren't real and had nothing to do with anything. How can they? At the drop of a hat, they would go off to Switzerland to have a song and dance. So Shyam Benegal made sure that when he got the opportunity, he would show spaces that are real. And at this point, we don't think too much of that because there's so much good work going on all over India, especially thanks to streaming and other things. But in 1972, to show a real place with people who actually exist was by itself a revolutionary step. And he did that with Ankur. And not just that, taking actors who weren't mainstream actors. Shabana Azmi is a very well-known name now. And Wahida Rahman was, like, they wanted to cast Wahida Rahman. And we don't know how the film would have turned out if that had happened. But when Shabana Azmi came to Shyam Benegal's office, Shyam said that you will not work, it will not work, you're too westernized. The character was Lakshmi, who was supposed to be this very poor, low-caste person. I said, you can't play this role, you're too westernized for it. So Shabana Azmi comes back the next day, complete with makeup and costume. And Shyam Benegal says, well, yes, okay, now I see it. You can. So when he gets this opportunity, he kind of creates a way of filmmaking which hadn't existed before in India. He has a finished script. He takes his characters to location and they stay there for 3 or 4 weeks for the duration of the shoot. Everyone stays together. He learned this from theatre. So he spent a lot of time in Bombay when he was this ad man filmmaker. And Sir mentioned mentioned Alip Pedamsi, who was he was the man responsible for English theatre in Bombay at the time. So he spent all his time in theatre. He understood the value of actors working together. So he took them out on location. Everyone was together. Everyone was working. No star system. Everyone is working for the good of the film. So the actors and crew members all are pulling for the film. And he was there as the mentor figure. And he goes ahead and he makes this film with no Bollywood music, with no Bollywood settings, no Bollywood tropes of any kind. And what helps him is the fact that his producer says that make the language Dakhni. Because choice was Telugu or Dakhni. And Bengal actually wanted to make it in Telugu. He said, no, make it in Dakhni. Dakhni sounds a little like Hindi. Because people will be able to understand it. And that's the reason why Ankur was seen everywhere. And miraculously, out of the ferment of this moment, came this film from nowhere, apparently, which was committed to showing India as it was. Now, I know that's a loaded statement, but given the kind of escapist cinema that was going on at the moment, it was a huge, major step. Was it a perfect film? No, it wasn't. Was it an effective film? Yes. Because you see, he had this experience as an ad filmmaker of being able to tell stories with minimum effort. Like put in as much information as you can and as effectively as you can. So his training is of a man who wants to sell things or can sell things. So he never made films that could not be sold, in a way. So he started off this revolution, and not knowingly, not thinking, not self-consciously, he's not trying to start something, but he does, nevertheless. And thereby, from that moment onwards, there is a way of making films in your own terms. So when Anurag Kashyap makes films later on, and he calls it guerrilla filmmaking, that I'm gonna take a camera and go around the streets. And he says that I could do that because 20 years ago, Shyam Benegal did it first. And so I can do it now. So in a way, the 70s, and I think I wanted to actually ask her this next question, if that's possible. I said, so coming from Assam and wanting to make films and going out and learning to make films, what did you think, given the mainstream dominance at the time, sir? How did you think you were going to make films on your own terms?
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to mention certain things in a broader perspective. That in the institute, actually, when the first time I was experiencing the new field. In the institute, a very beautiful thing was taught to us, particularly to the direction students. How to create your own identity. And then you start, it provokes you to think of your own identity. So he straight away takes you to where you are from, where our roots and all sorts of things. A lot of connection takes place. So accordingly, what I felt coming back to Shyam Benegal, and during first year and second year, we got, not only me, my all other classmates also, got to know that identity of a filmmaker is very important. And how to present your identity anyway, how to be known with your identity. In the entire, such a vast industry and all, it is a huge battlefield. And we are conscious, very much conscious about it. As I said, we are not welcome at all to the industry. And we are really scared. And during that time, this Shyam Benegal comes in. And then we got to see him creating his own identity with Ankur. And as I said, that Ankur is a difference, brought the difference to the industry. And everyone started talking gaga about it. And of course, people who think differently, people who say filmmakers like Rishikesh Mukherjee, Basu Teteri, Basu Bhattacharya, even Bimal Roy and all. That era, it has shown a lot of difference. I mean, between the mainstream and some other kind of films, so-called meaningful films. What way you say that that somewhere the so-called parallel cinema or whatever different kind of films are, I mean, starting to grow that time. So during that time, and Shyam Benegal being already in the battlefield, no help from anyone. He's not from institute that way. So he was creating an identity. It was a huge, benefit to us, because that is, you get to automatically, indirectly, you get to learn something. Yes, we can also do it. That kind of identification had taken place. Thus, I would say that is a lot of inspiration comes from Ankur. But at the same time, I would say that since we also, each of us, we are taught to create our own identity, we were different from Shyam Benegal's identity as well, obviously. But we were also taught to respect each other's identity. That is how actually that we got benefited from it. In fact, and I would say that Shyam Benegal, that from the first film onwards, that we got to observe him closely, that was a huge benefit towards him. In fact, we are very much indebted to him. And because what he had done enough to be an institution by itself. So that is what I actually, I always felt whenever I used to interact with him. And as I said that, I had a lot of close interaction with him for my, till lately actually, till the last film in a way. And he was very disciplined. And anyway, that I would say later.
Well, so in the 70s, considering we are 3 decades short, that's not even 3 decades since independence, was the idea, and it was very important for Shyam Benegal when I talked to him, that it was very important for him to know what we are doing with our independence. That after we are independent, what kind of identity are we crafting for ourselves as a nation? And I think so many years on, that's not a question that's foremost in anyone's mind. I think most people already have very settled ideas of what we are as a nation. But in those years, this was an important idea. So do you think that his films also kind of helped or inspired filmmakers like you to deal with that question?
Indirectly, yes. Because we never used to, it never used to, identify as a filmmaker. For example, me as a filmmaker, I don't identify myself in his films, so for identity concern. But the kind of, say, the battle he had fought, and that all of us used to appreciate. And another thing I would like to say, because the young people actually, as he had asked, very few of you have seen Shyam Benegal's films. But as I said that, this is take it from me actually, that Shyam Benegal is an institution that way. Because I got to see him, the entire movement he has fought, the entire fight he had done. And he come out winner. And he had never compromised. But in between, I would say that also he was lucky, I would say, that during those days, there was hardly any support. And in a way, as I said earlier, I think I told you earlier in the room, that somewhere, even the establishments, like governments, central government, state governments and all, and somewhere they felt cinema is important. And they wanted to express their agenda or something, but there was no filmmakers. They could not find any filmmaker, regular filmmakers in the industry. So Shyam Benegal was coming up. He have got a lot of offers from the establishments, for which he was criticized also. I mean, by one section of critics. But if you take it positively, and he did a lot of justice to them. That is what we appreciate always. And so I would appeal to all the people actually who have not seen, and you try to look at the films as an Shyam Benegal as an institution, and you will gain from it. You not only gain, but you will be inspired to whatever movement you are in, whether you want to be writer or anything, because there is a lot of energy in it, in its growth.
It's interesting because when you're talking about Shyam Benegal, I'm thinking about other important modernist kind of pioneer artists from the Konkan. Very often it's said about them, artists, writers, intellectuals, inspired, led the way. But quite often, due to circumstances, they're not always successful in their own lifetime. It's left to be right. I was talking to you about Souza, recognized after they passed away. But also I think that in the case of Benegal, there are some choices made which are kind of questionable. And I'd like to, let's have a critical assessment. Benegal did what has to be considered propaganda movies, paid for by the state, or by organizations, which with a polemic or an outright. You already know what the conclusion has to be. That's propaganda, which it may. I would also like to think that I think in a way he made a bad call on this idea of trying to construct an Indian, a self-conscious construct of an Indian cinema as opposed to regional cinema. And in this very useful book, Arjun has a fine interview with Benegal, and I'll explain to you Benegal's point of view on this. Okay, he says. Arjun's question is, you emerged as the leader of an alternate cinema that was pan-Indian in its concerns. How did it come about? So Benegal says it came about because of a deliberate choice of language. I spoke Konkani, and even though I would be very comfortable making a film in it, I don't think he ever did, it would have no audience at all. In Hyderabad, where I grew up, there were two languages to choose from, Telugu and Dakni. I didn't want to make a film in Telugu because then the film wouldn't be seen outside Andhra Pradesh. Dakni was a combination of Hindu and Urdu and has deep roots. It also had the advantage of being comprehensible everywhere in India. Questionable. I wanted to make a film that was deeply rooted in a particular region, but would be understood and appeal to the whole of India. That was the advantage of Ankur. No matter where it was released, the language was familiar enough for people to follow. So I would like to perhaps think that this is a false dichotomy between if I made it in a language that was more Ray was making movies in Bengali and everyone in the world is seeing it. And when you try to make a kind of a hodgepodge national movie, it kind of fails. It can fail. And the example I was thinking of is Village Rockstars, which is made here in Assam, a wonderful work of global cinema. How many people here have seen Village Rockstars? So that is really a shame. You've not seen Shyam Benegal's movie, but you should really see Village Rockstars. It's made by a young person who's self-taught, and just like we were talking about guerrilla filmmaking with no infrastructure whatsoever, this young woman has made a kind of a cinematic masterpiece, two of them actually, which has won lots of awards. Let me ask you, sir, as a witness of all of this, as this is happening in the 70s, you're seeing it happen. What are the vision behind it? What are the successes? What are some of the ways in which, looking back, you were privy, you mentioned so evocative at Ganga Vihar, all of you guys getting together, having a drink or two and shooting the breeze. And at this point, Benegal is struggling, so there may be he might have shared some anxieties with you, some disappointments at that point. And then he kind of makes it, but Was he able to achieve what he wanted to, and you are able to assess it from the beginning to the end? How do you assess him as an artist now? How important is he?
At the same time, actually, I would say that Benegal during that time, when he was, we feel that he was struggling. He was struggling, the kind of films he wanted to make. But at the same time, in our assessment, actually, that he would have a lot of support. He had a very good friend circle. And also, as I would like to mention, he has I would say that a pottery of good actors, and the growth actually taking place from NSD and even from FTII, good actors like Om Puri, Nasiruddin Shah, Kulbhushan, and Kulbhushan is not from NSD, and Shabana, Smita Pati. Also, all these people, they are very important for them, and because they were acceptable both ways, and in the process he got a lot of support, even through them, indirectly, not directly, and plus also he got some very good financial support from funders who want to make good films, much away from the commercial stuff. That way. Then he was the only filmmaker that time, during that time, apart from say Basu Chatterjee and Basu Bhattacharya. So he was, regularly he was approached. So that way he didn't have problem that way. But later he got problem because once I remember, actually I was with him in Ladakh International Film Festival. He was there, he was a guest of honor, and I was chairing the jury that year. And he had come actually that during breakfast in the hotel. So he came and sat sat opposite me. And then he asked me a question actually that, how do you get your finance? And he meant actually, I have been regularly making films. And was it easy for you? I said, no, it's not easy at all. So he said, same here. I'm finding it very difficult. He had just finished that time, Sajjan, Welcome to Sajjanpur. He had finished that and he's struggling to make the next film that time. So that is why actually he had gone through a phase that way. And difficult phase, and also I felt that he was so disciplined, and people used to talk very good about him, was very positive about him. Automatically that support directly or indirectly it comes, and he gets not only get support, but also that he used to create audience. That's what I felt. But there was a difficult phase which definitely he had gone through, and he had many times in Ganga Vihar used to narrate stories, how difficult it is. And sometimes he used to be, he never used to give galis or something, never used to be abusive. But very respectfully, he used to, express his very unhappiness very regularly.
So 1970s, of course, is pre television. Even in India, there was barely any television. Cinema had a different role altogether in society. And an independent voice, you both so persuasively explain why he's important. Let's look at the audience here. They are in a screen-saturated era, consuming the moving image constantly, not super interested perhaps in long form. Why you, Arjun? Janada explained to them why he feels they should watch Benegal movies. Why is Benegal important to the students who are sitting here? Why do you recommend Benegal to them?
See, you people are all youngsters. I mean, future, you are the future. You always look for energy. Sham Benegal is an institution that, emits energy a lot. But for that, you have to need to look at his work properly. It's not that just superfluous, but very properly. When you go through it, that journey of his growth as a filmmaker. If you do that now, you will find a lot of energy, and that is whether you want to become a writer or filmmaker or anything, but the energy is very much important, and that is what Sham Benegal gives you. And if you don't look at your films or something like, I'll just give one example. During my childhood, actually, when I used to be regularly used to read novels, and always will go to the bookshop, and ask for my favorite writer's novel. Is there any new book or something? My favorite was Shahid Abdul Malik. That time in my school days. So I used to chase Shahid Abdul Malik. So that is what I am saying, that if you try to look for energy, you chase the author or the filmmaker or what your favorite filmmaker. You must do that. Then you get it. Going through an experience, you cannot be with Sham Benegal, he is no more today, but you can be with him through his films, and how he has struggled, how he has, brought in, he never compromised, and how he had made it. That itself is a big lesson. So that is what I would say, that it's all throughout, it is inspiration throughout. And
Arjun, you are born in 1980. Janada had the privilege of knowing Sham Benegal. Why would did it give you energy looking through this? Why should they pay attention to Sham Benegal?
I think the situation has changed, and I'll tell you why. Because all the youngsters who are sitting here, they consume media in very different ways. So for us, the cinema was a self-sufficient thing. We went, we bought a ticket, we watched a film, and we came back home. And TV was TV serials on Doordarshan. That's how we grew up. But now we are in the age of what's broadly known as transmedia, that you consume your media through several different kinds of devices, and they are all connected to each other in ways that are determining how the content is created. So now content is created in order to engage your attention immediately, but for a very short time. So it's made to appeal for a while, and then it's supposed to fade away. And it's quite naturally so, because it's essentially the visual equivalent of having a can of Thumbs Up or a packet of chips. You have it, when you're having it, it's nice, when it's done, you throw it away, you don't think of it again. So in an age of reels, because that's how you're consuming your media mostly now, through reels, and those reels are of a few seconds, really. And that's why they are made in a particular way. Next time you watch a reel, and reels kind of encourage you to watch it mindlessly, but don't watch it mindlessly. Be conscious of how these reels are constructed. And you will see that the edits are very quick. The dialogue is very snappy. The music is supposed to be very appealing. All of it to make sure that you don't get time to think. There is no time to think when you're watching a reel. You get an immediate response, you carry on. It's as I said, you open up a can of fizzy drink, that first day you get, oh, it's really nice, and then, okay, it's done. It's finished. Let's move on to the next high we're gonna get. But to watch a film of that era, not just Sham Benegal, any of the other filmmakers of that era, is to watch a kind of narrative that's very different from the kind you're used to. Because those narratives will let a scene breathe. And it's true for Sir's films also. If you watch his films, there are no sudden sharp edits. He'll let a scene breathe. It's important to let a scene breathe. It's important to let the scene take its time. And it's important for you to train your mind to appreciate something that takes time, instead of consuming it immediately and then forgetting about it. Because if you let it take time, it's going to stay. And if it stays, it's going to have an impact. It's going to shape how you're doing or how you're watching it. To watch a film, and that's what I'm saying, it's not a question of whether they're good films, bad films. Those are subjective ideas and everyone is going to have their own opinion. To watch a filmmaker like Shyam Benegal is to train your mind, is to educate your mind, to watch something in an informed manner. You can have an opinion about it later, whether it was good or bad. But it's going to train you in a certain way. So to come to the next part of the question, why you should watch, except for this, why you should watch them at all. It's because I think in this climate, it's important to watch the work of a filmmaker who is constantly trying to tell you that India is not one thing. That in all his works, he's constantly trying to say that India is not a monolithic entity. That it cannot be reduced to one language, one religion, one people, one region. You cannot conflate the bewildering multiplicity that this country is to one monolithic idea and then deem all that do not or does not agree with it as un-Indian. So all through his films, he's constantly trying to, on one hand, show you that India is plurality. And this plurality may be on the verge of falling out with each other at any given point, but it's also together. It's constantly and simultaneously in a state of conflict, but also in a state of integrity, somehow. And it's important to acknowledge that these voices exist, that there is no place in India that is more India than any other part. That every part of it is as much India as anything else, anywhere else. And the other thing is, he's constantly trying to tell you that this is a country that's really old. You know, post-globalization children tend not to think that, because we live in a time where the media kind of tells us we belong to the same culture everywhere, it seems. That Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift everywhere. But the point is, this is a very old country. And this is an old country that after 1947, our first Prime Minister said it's time to move forward. We need to be a progressive country, a liberal country, an educated country. And in those films in the 70s and 80s, Benegal is constantly trying to tell you that there is a tension in this country between holding on to a tradition that's hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, and this drive to be part of the 20th century, that we must be. So on one hand, it reveals deeply entrenched structures of exploitation and repression that is constantly trying to tell you that those in power, those in privilege, and what they are doing to those who don't have power, don't have privilege. He's trying to give a voice to those who don't have any. But the one thing that he has all through his films, and it's important for everyone to watch really, is that he has from the very beginning been concerned with with women and how they are represented and their reality in different parts of the country, no matter where they are. So he has made very few films that are urban in nature, except Kali Yuga. But no matter where he or what he talks about, he's always going to show you the angle of the woman in it. So let me tell you, as Vivek was pointing out, that he made a propaganda film called Manthan. And I wrote an article on it that came out in Outlook called Manthan and the Art of the Propaganda Film. And he made two films like this. One was Manthan, which was the government trying to push Operation Flood, the cooperative system, as something that should be imposed all over the country. So his film was going to be the showpiece for that. And the other one was a film called Arohan, which is little watched because it's based in Bengal and the West Bengal communist government funded it in order to prove why the coming of the communists is better for the common farmer. Now, see, Manthan is a government, it's a film that it completely and absolutely says that the cooperative is the way to go forward. There is no two ways about it. It toes the government line from the beginning till the end. But here's the thing. At the end of the film, Smita Patil, in one of her first major roles, Smita Patil is left desolate and without a voice. She has a voice at the beginning, when her husband's not around. Husband returns, she has no voice, relegated to domestic spaces. And she's left desolate. And Benegal is telling you there that no matter what narrative of progress you're going to push here, there is a casualty. Or there is an erasure. or somebody's ignoring the case of the woman. I'd like you to watch Bhumika, and you just watch the first 5 minutes, and then you decide whether you want to watch it again. Bhumika opens with Smita Patil dancing in a Bollywood film. It's framed like a typical Bollywood number, with the background dancers and everything. So it seems like you're actually watching a Bollywood film until suddenly somebody says cut. And you know it's a shot, it's a film, and Smita Patil is playing an actress in it. And that's fine, that's okay. The next scene immediately shows us Smita Patil without her makeup and all the gaudiness of a Bollywood costume, standing outside the studio waiting for her car. She's irritable. She's hot, she's sweating. She does not have a smile on her face. And in his first 5 minutes, Shyam Benegal lays bare the hypocrisies of a mainstream cinema that projects women in objective terms to show us what she is. Without a smile, that's important. Looking grumpy. Now try and watch a mainstream film in which a woman is looking grumpy without additionally also being coy at the same time. So in all his films, he takes up these issues. Sometimes he may not be as successful in dealing with them. Who is? But the fact is that he brings up these issues from time to time, from the beginning till the end. And for all these reasons and more, I think it's important for us just go and watch, especially for those, again, I keep on harping on this because I think I'm growing old too, it seems, that the gap between the pre-liberalization kids and the post-liberalization kids seems so much to me now, especially because I'm a college teacher and I see it all the time. And 20 years, I started teaching 20 years ago. And 22 years ago. I started teaching 22 years ago, and I used to make references to films and shows and everyone would nod along. Now I say things and I get blank faces and it freaks me out because it seems that I've kind of, lost any kind of connect that I ever had. But that shouldn't be so. I think as students we have a kind of responsibility to educate ourselves about our own cultural legacies, whether we agree with them or not. So for these reasons and more, I think all of you should watch a few films. And I'll make it interesting for you. I'll make it interesting. Because we are saying that Shyam Benegal is one of those pioneers who created a new kind of cinema, broke away from the system, right? Has anyone ever heard of a film called Do Gaz Zameen Ke Neeche? 1, 2... Okay, how many of you have heard of the Ramsay brothers? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Annie. Now, here's the thing. Ramsay brothers are the first... You would think that our industry is a pretty old one, but no one really made horror films before the Ramsay brothers. Indian cinema didn't deal with horror. It didn't do horror. It may have had the supernatural, it didn't do horror. So along comes, very aptly named F.U. Ramsay. That's the name of the patriarch. I'm not making it up. The name of the patriarch is F.U. Ramsay, and he has 7 sons. And he decides to make schlocky, terrible horror films. They're awful. But there's one, the Do Gaz Zameen Ke Neeche is the first one that's available on YouTube, and it's been restored. Watch it, because it's one of those so bad it's good kind of films. But I'll tell you why you should watch it. These people, these 7 brothers, did exactly what Shyam Benegal did. They didn't care for the mainstream. They went ahead and hired their own actors, hired their cameras, wrote their own scripts. All 7 brothers were involved in filmmaking, all of them. They together made those films. They made it in a couple of weeks, out, not in main cities, B centers, C centers. That's where they made their money. So if you watch on one hand Ankur, and on the other hand Do Gaz Zameen Ke Neeche, you have the entire spectrum of filmmakers who were cocking a snook at the system. And as students, it's important for us to remember that as far as cultural achievement is concerned, Shyam Benegal and F.U. Ramsay are not very different from each other. They're both saying that I'll make a film like I want to. Except F.U. Ramsay is making films that will not stand up to any kind of critical scrutiny. And Shyam Benegal's will. So go ahead and watch both, because it's important.
Big hand for Professor Sengupta. Namita, what do you feel about this Ramsay brothers, like the Benegal comparison?
Much away from Ramsay brothers. I just want to add something to Shyam's one important thing. Actually, during his when he was slowly started to struggle for his fundings and all, that. But he made a lot of effort to create audience, some kind of consciousness amongst new generations of filmmakers, not only filmmakers but audience also. And he is instrumental in creating Mummy. Mumbai, Mummy? Mumbai Academy for Moving Images. So Mummy is now big. I mean, it got converted into some kind of festival, international festival. But during that time, I was fortunate to be associated with him and other filmmakers. Both the Basus are there, over there, and I was assisting. But I could see that, kind of desperation he had during that time. Must do something, must create some kind of environment for better cinema, very much. So that kind of desperation I could see in him. So obviously, because he is already in the battlefield, as I said, and he wants the Indian cinema to come up that way, and some kind of say acceptance amongst the bigger audience. So that was an effort he made, but he was later he became very dissatisfied with it, the way it was, sabotaged. Yeah, so that also happened. And other thing is, actually I just want to add, once I asked him actually in Gangavir itself about when people used to criticize him about doing propaganda films. And I had wanted to know, why did you make Manthan? Because people were, during that time, they were trying to criticize. Some people, I didn't like that. But there was some kind of criticism. But he very beautifully explained that, see, India is a developing country. We have a lot of issues, social issues. You accept all these issues as our social issues, our own issues. How to help them? That's how cinema can help. So obviously that we come in, filmmakers come in automatically. And if we straight away use the term propaganda, then it becomes negative. Yeah, that should not happen. See, if we are helping our land or something, like suppose Assam needs something to be done for their future development, and somewhere as a filmmaker or as a writer you are contributing, and we should not feel bad about it, and you are helping in the entire process of development. So somewhere it is a part of the social issues that we need to look into. That is how actually he explained, and that is very beautiful, because it's very much justified. So when the film starts, Manthan, and the first card actually comes on the first title, 5 lakh farmers, that they produce. They have produced the film. 5 lakh farmers of Gujarat. Yeah. So that is how the film starts. So automatically, straight away, it takes you into some kind of issue, social issue, because creating cooperative senses and cooperative, words, it is not easy. If a film helps, automatically a filmmaker must come forward to help in that development process.
What a lovely evocation of the times and the choices that were made, and really it's such a privilege in this conversation to have Januda with us, who is a witness and a conversant and a discussant. So big hand please for Januda. Okay, let's take questions from the audience. How many questions are there? Anyone with a question? Let's start with her. Do we have okay, let's go back there. Okay, yes, go here first, please. Introduce yourself. Make the question brief, please. Once there.
Hello, my name is Adrita, and thank you for this interesting session. I have watched a few of his films. For me, my favorite is Mamu, and after watching it, I had so many emotions, mixed emotions of warmth, nostalgia, and so many. So I want to ask the dais, what is their favorite film of Shyam Benegal? And as sir has already suggested that he would ask everyone to watch Bhumika. So what else would you suggest that everyone should watch to start watching his films? Thank you.
But keep it brief.
Yeah, I would urge you to watch the first 3 films, but Kalyug, Junoon, Kalyug, and Suraj Ka Satwa Ghoda. These are my 3 recommendations for anyone wanting to start to watch. Okay.
I want just to add something there. See, when a filmmaker grows, and this thought process also grows. And at one time, what becomes the first film, it never stays with him. And it grows to become another film, another thought process. So that way, that development, to feel that development, you chronologically, if you try to watch those films, you get the feel of that filmmaker, how he has grown. That is important. That helps you, when you want to grow in your own field, whether it's writing or filmmaking or any field. That matters. This also becomes, as I said, there's a lot of energy you get out of that. Chronologically, nowadays it's very easy to, I'm just get into Google and then entire chronology comes.
So I personally, I'm not a cinephile, neither a scholar, nothing compared to anyone else on this panel. However, I have a strong opinion and idea about Indian modernism. I also love the independent Indian voice that Benegal was aiming for. And I have to say, I don't find him super successful as an artist myself, if you don't mind me saying so. I find that Benegal quite early has dated. His pieces, his artworks look like period pieces. The greatness of art shows as time passes, and only the very great works of art become better and better, more and more relevant. It's the same with ideas, and the proof is as time goes by. So it's possible my opinion will also change. But as period pieces, I'm very fond of Junoon, because Junoon, I remember as a child watching it in a cinema in Pune. But also it embodies the times, it's a particular vision, it's a way of making films, it's a construct of characters, it expresses an ambition. So I like that movie a lot. Next question, please. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Pankaj Dikshit from Delhi. I have a lot of questions, but I'll stick to one only. First, thanks to Mr. Sengupta for writing a book on Benegal sir. Thanks a lot for suggesting few movies as well. My question to Barwa sir is that with the advent of OTTs, etc., do you see these socially or culturally relevant cinema being pushed through that? Or should we have NFDC coming in forward with a lot of funds, maybe allocated at center level to promote this? That's my question to Barwa sir.
In OTT age, actually, that things are becoming very difficult, and I don't know. I can also hope certain things to happen, but see what happens in the process of kind of people's say wanting to see good films or some kind of it might not be there anymore. Might not be there. Kind of things that keep happening. For example, all the OTTs. Now, a filmmaker with a very good film also finds it very difficult to get onto a OTT. It's a very sad state of affair, and it's. But anyway, it's all business, and it depends on, it's a demand and supply. So all of you go for a good quality film. OTT will be compelled to show it, So like that it happens. So it's a consciousness actually that needs to develop socially. In societies actually that what kind of stuff we should go for. That kind of urge actually if it develops now, automatically things will change. And OTT also will change. They will be bound to show good films or like that. That is what I can only hope. I don't know. I mean, during my time, actually, that so far, I have been very much disturbed by new developments. I am very much against AI, artificial intelligence. People go gaga about it. I get very disturbed. Not only AI, but also some aspects of digital technology also I get very disturbed. So somewhere I feel that there is a loss of humanity in the entire process. So we are losing ourselves day by day, and that is a very sad state of affairs. And how to correct it? That is of course finally that whatever the people at large would want. I mean, all these platforms will give that. So that's so it's some kind of neither here nor that. There are catch-22 situations. Yeah.
Question here? Mic, please.
Yes, I am Somesh Dekar. Basically, I am a journalist, sports organizer. And thanks to God that I have a great person and witness with the great Janubhava. And I must thankful my greatness to you, Arjun and Vivek, because it is known to me a little bit about Sharmanagar. A lot of things today I know. It is good. And my question is, our respected Janubhava Kokaido, that I think lot of impact from Panagal to you, because we know that you are very disciplined, you never do compromise, and you man of ethics. And I will be very happy. Janu Kokaido, I took him among the Assam, among 10 people he is a one. So we are very lucky. We are very lucky. We are very lucky. A person with a very special character. So my question is, Janu Kokaido, that the lot of impact from Shyam Banagar to you. Is it so?
Indirectly, yes. Of course, I have, as I said, I am very fortunate that to be, coming across a lot of good people, a lot of great people, and Shyam Banagar is one of them. There are each from great person actually you get to learn. I'm always a film student. I'm always a student. Whether in anything what I do, I consider myself a student. So students' main objective, main duty is to keep yourself open, your mind open, so that you learn things. And that everywhere, even I learn from anything. So that way, of course, I would say that there is may not be direct, but indirectly there is a lot of a lot of benefit I have got from him, because I have seen him how disciplined he is. And also another thing actually I liked in him, personally, whenever he used to come to Ganga Vihar, he always used to come with his family, Neera and Pia. Come with his family and then they enjoy, and as a group, as a family, and that is one thing actually needs to be learned. And personally, I don't know, my family is here now, but I always like to be with my family. So that is one thing actually. The filmmaking is also the family business that way. So far thought process is concerned. That I felt very strongly from Shyam, and after all, it is family is a part of society, and that's the world, and you need to do things for the world.
Sir and Francis Ford Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola is famous for involving his entire family in every production and taking them along with him. So yes.
I love a lot of Shyam Benegal's. Hi, my name is Annie Zaidi. I'm a writer, and I love a lot of Shyam Benegal's work. I've seen most of his work. The only time I got into trouble with my mom for bunking college and going somewhere without telling her was when I went to see a Shyam Benegal special screening. That actually is one of his films that never released, Samar. It did win a national award, but it didn't release, and I think that was just about the post-liberalization change in the way things were changing. My question really is about some of his unsuccessful works, and I don't mean Samar. It is a successful film. It did get a release as a separate issue. It's a nice film, I still remember it. But there is some of Shyam Benegal's work that even I find unwatchable or difficult to watch. The Bose film was one of them. Well Done Abba was kind of, sort of, I found it not having the same power. What happened with Benegal's work? I mean, I love Sajanpur, it's very entertaining, but something shifted at some points. And because you've seen his work, Arjun, and you do bring your critical faculties to it, what happened there with those films? What is your sense of it, your analysis?
Thanks for the question. I do have a very specific answer to this because it's a question that I had to deal with myself. So, whenever Shyam Benegal dealt with a historical personality, so whether he makes a biography of Bose, or the making of the Mahatma, or his last film, which is Mujhe, these are the films he's least known for. And I think it's because as a filmmaker, he wasn't particularly comfortable with showing us the life of a person. So if we are to judge whether there is something that, there's an arrow that's not there in his quiver, I would say it's his ability to tell a good biographical tale. He's very good with history. So when it comes to say something like Junoon, he's able to give us a sense of the times without showing us the war. The reason why any battle is shown at all is because Shashi Kapoor insisted on it, because he was the one paying for the film. But apart from the fact, Junoon is about people caught up in the maelstrom of history. And he's very good at that. So, interestingly enough, the part that I talked about, he had a relative who was part of the forward bloc, and he was the one who was in the British prisoner of war camp. And he wanted to make a film on him, but then at the last moment he changed focus and said, no, I'll make a film on Bose. So when you watch Bose, it seems like a series of events happening without any real critical engagement. So I suppose I would say that it's simply a genre that did not work for him. And when it comes to Well Done Abba, I think after Welcome to Sajanpur, as Sir was saying, he was already facing a great deal of trouble with financing and funding to begin with. So I think he was under a lot of pressure to make a light, entertaining film. And Shyam Benegal can only be light and entertaining to a certain point, let's say. So what happens is that film comes across as superficial. It does not have the necessary impact as it should. And that's his second last film, so he stopped making films after that. So yeah, I think in a nutshell that would be my answer.
Any more questions? No? Thank you both for this absolutely wonderful conversation. It's really been a privilege for both of you. Congratulations on the book, Arjun, and thank you so much for your sharing. It was really, really impressive. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I didn't see anyone raise their hands when Arjun asked people to promise to watch a movie, and you've also heard a strong encouragement from Januda. So I'd like to see a show of hands, please. Who's going to go look up Shyam Benegal and go watch a movie? All right, now that's what we want to see. Congratulations. Also look up the Ramsey brothers. You might be surprised and enjoy it.
Absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's been a wonderful session, isn't it? We came to know many new things. Even I also came to know many new things about Shyam Benegal sir. Even though he is not with us, but his journey should be cherished by all. So it is. I will go today and watch his stories more and more. And I sincerely offer my gratitude to all our speakers. We have learned a lot from you. They have also their journeys in life. We should also inspire from them also. Thank you, sir, for your time. And I also offer my sincere gratitude to all our audiences, all our faculty members, our other guests, all the students, all the attendees, our volunteers, our rapporteurs, and all the technical supports we have. Thank you everyone for your time and consideration. Thank you so much.
Small announcement. Teachers and students from Tinsukia College, Tinsukia Women's College, they will have their lunch at duty canteen. Our volunteers will lead you to the canteen and